Good day, everyone, and welcome to the online JDE Forum. Thank you for making the time today to attend. We are very grateful for your support. Just to give a bit of background, the JDE Forum took initiative in 2017. When together with our clients, we recognized the need for JDE customers and users to meet, share and learn from each other, as well as a platform where new and innovative topics are presented, shared and discussed. So today is our 10th forum and it's the 4th online event. We will record the session today if there are no objections, and we will make the recording and presentations available to all attendees. Can I just check if there are any objections, or maybe please proceed with the recording? Oh, okay, so nobody's given objection. So I've started the recording already. So just then for us to be able to make this available. I think before we begin with the presentations on the agenda, perhaps just a few words on JDE Release 23. Oracle announced the availability of JDE Release 23 in October of this year. Release 23, as is customary with a CUME or release update, includes both application and tool enhancements. In the JDE Forum planned for May of 2023, we will unpack the key features and functionalities made available in this release. Release 23 delivers application enhancements in the procurement, manufacturing, order management, and financial modules. A few of the enhancements made available in Release 23 are the introduction of the address book map, which introduces an interactive and responsive graphical interface, which allows users to perform multiple searches across the address book simultaneously and locate the results on a geographical map. The voucher match automation feature is enhanced in Release 23 to match vendor invoices that contain additional fees lines, and will add those lines to the respective voucher and purchase orders. In the manufacturing module, an option to print substitute items as defined in the bill of material has been added, and a new works order status for outside operations is automatically populated when performing purchase order receipts for production works orders with outside operations. In sales order management, the ability to recalculate rebate amounts based on the original sales order exchange rate was added, thus eliminating exchange rate variances. Some exciting features available in the tools release are orchestrations can now call workflows, and workflows can call orchestrations. A file selector for orchestrations from an E1 page has been added. This feature allows an end user to easily supply file inputs to orchestrations. There are a number of enhancements to the logical extensions feature that was introduced in Release 22. By and large, the purpose of logic extensions is to eliminate the need for SQL updates. You can now launch a logic extension directly from a form extension without having to include it in an orchestration. Data can now be summed, averaged, or otherwise aggregated in logic extensions without the need for programming skills. And logic extensions now has the ability to accept arrays as input and return arrays as output for iterative processing of multiple rows of data. A password reset self-service has eventually been added as a standard feature by Oracle. As stated, we will evaluate and discuss Release 23 in more depth at the next forum planned to be held in May next year. So on the agenda today, we are presenting a few add-on products that are available to the JDE community worldwide. With Resolve Red being a partner of the Red Fair International Consortium, we have evaluated the add-on products developed by other Red Fair International partners, and we thought that the products presented today could be of interest and or benefit to the South African client base. First on the agenda is the fast closing product. The product was developed by MPL, a JDE business partner in Brazil and also a Red Fair International partner. The fast closing product addresses issues with the JDE month and annual close processes. The product provides automated processes, validation reports, notifications, and graphic monitoring. The benefit of the product is to identify issues throughout the month and to speed up the month-end and year-end close processes. Simone from MPL will present the solution. And Simone, thank you very much for joining at this ungodly hour from Brazil.
That's
I think
okay.
it's okay. Thank you very much. So Cadrin, or Cadron, as they call themselves in the Netherlands, Cadrin Consulting, the leading Oracle partner in the Netherlands and co-founder of Redfair International, will present their AIR product, or account and inventory reconciliation. The AIR product supports customers with month-end reconciliations and inventory processes. I am sure we are all acutely aware of the challenges in JDE Edwards to balance the subsystems to the GL and to produce accurate as-of inventory quantities and values. Mark from Cadron will take us through the AIR features and benefits. ADEX is a JDE Edwards data management tool and is integrated with Microsoft Excel to quickly and easily manage, maintain, or mass upload JDE Edwards data. ADEX leverages embedded JDE Edwards features like the orchestrator. ADEX is a certified Oracle validated integration tool and has also won an award from Oracle in this regard. We have a number of clients in South Africa already using the tool, and the feedback so far has been overwhelmingly positive. Werner from ResolveReg will demonstrate the ease of use and versatility of the solution. So thank you very much for attending today. I hope you enjoy the session, and please feel free to ask questions. As said earlier, we will make available the recording and presentation of today's session. If you're interested or want to know more about any of the products that we've discussed today, please feel free to contact me directly, and I'll make sure that I put you in contact with the right people. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Simone. Simone, I'm going to stop sharing, and over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm the service director from MPL. I've been working with JDE Edwards since 1994, and I started my career as a functional consultant, so I have a lot of experience dealing with month-end and annual close issues, okay? I will show you a 2-minute video as an introduction to fast closing, and after that, some slides and a project live demo, okay? I will share my screen right now. Everyone can see it, so
Perfect. We can
let's
see.
go.
Thank you, Simone.
Yeah, okay. So as promised, it was a very short video, and let us start the presentation right here. So the desire to develop a tool that can speed up and help JDE Edwards users with their month close process is something we've been discussing for a long time at MPL. We observe the challenges many of our clients face during the closing period due to lack of time and resources or lack of better information regarding errors that occur on a daily basis. So MPL Fast Closing is fully integrated to the core JDE ADEX application, and it has three main focus areas: cost reduction, freeing up resources involved in the closing process so they can focus on core activities for the business; data accuracy, ensuring completeness of information and making sure all processes are executed; and management. A dashboard provides a graphic visualization of the status of the closing process, okay, including number of pending errors and percentage to complete. Managers and other key users that are not directly involved during the closing month can now use this one page to get a snapshot of the overall progress of the process. Okay, so talking a little bit about the pains the closing process caused to companies, we have some data on the common complaints from our clients, which I believe are shared by the most users of ERP system. Okay, this first graph shows the average time the closing process takes to complete in each company. And we can see that 75% of companies take more than 5 days to close. And the other three graphs shows the demand the closing process has on the company's resource. 87% of companies record overtime during the month close period. 45% of companies believe or at least suspect that the closing is not as accurate as it can be, given that many issues tend to be resolved in a rush in order to meet the fixed deadlines in the process. And 90% of companies report facing increasing demands to reduce the time they take to complete the closing. Okay. Just to give you an idea of the problem that we are dealing with in terms of numbers, imagine that 10 users are assigned to work on the closing for 4 days during only 3 days. At the end of the year, the company will have spent a lot of hours in staff resources exclusively with closing activities. In addition to that cost, there is also an intangible one associated with missed opportunities for the business once these people had their focus moved away from the company's core business. So again, the aim of MPL Fast Closing is not to reduce headcount, but to free up resources so they can be assigned to tasks that add true value to the company's bottom line. Okay. MPL Fast Close takes advantage of Oracle's latest technology tool for JDE Edwards. So we use a lot of orchestrations, notifications, composite pages, E1 pages, and watch list. And it was developed to meet our customers' demands. Fast Closing has a pre-configured execution plan that can be modified to add localization routines, specific clients, or specific country routines to the core month and close process. And as Fast Closing is a tool that applies to any line of business, every client in every market can make sure of its benefits. Okay. Now we will see a product live demo here. Let me go to the JDE Edwards application. Okay, so these are the two main pages of Fast Closing. The first one is the control panel. Here is where we do all the configuration of the tool, including the execution plan to be configured. So if you can see, we have a configured execution plan. We can have, you may have different types of plans if your closing routines are different. For example, you may have to run certain process in the standard monthly closing routine, but for the annual close, additional process may have to be run, such as the general accounting's annual close. Here, just to see a plan here, we have a list of all the routines that must be executed, and it can be grouped by type of routines. For instance, preparation routines, fixed assets routines, sales, accounting, and so on. But if you can group them by day one. For example, on day one, I need to run process A, B, and C. On day two, other process, and so on. So again, in the control panel here, let's go to the dashboard, okay? So this is the fast closing operational page. Okay, from this screen, you will navigate all fast closing functionalities. The first thing that catches our attention is the process timeline here. This is actually the graphical representation of the configured execution plan. We can expand or collapse the routines as they were previously grouped, and green squares means that the routine ended successfully without errors. Red squares means that the process ended with an error, and yellow squares mean that the process is still pending execution. Okay. The timeline is displayed by company. So from this drop box, you can choose the companies that you are checking. So if you go to company 200, it's a little bit different, the graphics. And back to company 100, we see another kind of information. Okay. Below the timeline, here we have two graphs. The first one shows the number of errors per process. For each process that we have in the timeline, we have the number of errors right here. Okay, and the number of actions taken to solve them. Okay, right now we do not have any actions taken to solve the problems that are displayed right here. Okay, and the second graph shows how many processes ended in error and how many ended successfully, for example. Okay. On the left side of the screen, right here, we have our watch lists. Also, two types of watch lists. The first one, the first group are user configured watch lists to alert you to any issue or problem that requires advanced attention, not only during closing, but on a daily basis. The object here is to anticipate problems so that during closing, all operational pending issues have been resolved. And the second group of watch lists are specific to fast closing and show the recurrence of errors. We have consecutive errors, which tracks process and that end in error above a set number of times. And we have recurring errors, tracks transactions that end in error above a set of number. Okay, so let's go into displaying and solving errors. Each error that I have that the tool identify, it's also sent to the notification icon, and we can see it inside JDE Edwards, or you can receive a notification by email also, okay? But from the timeline, we can access the error. So I will use here the posting general ledger process right now, okay? And the first thing that you notice is that with fast closing, regardless of whether the process generates the error in a PDF or in the work center, fast closing generates the error message in a single repository, which is displayed on the screen for you, like this one, without you having to search for the reported errors. So all errors are listed by type and we also have an information about how many transactions have that reported error. So if I select one error here, in this specific case, there is a series of transactions that point to the business unit inactive error. So the post-edit code of the business unit does not allow entry. Okay, and some transactions identifies business units 140, another ones for business unit 130. Okay, we also have here the detail of the transaction that has the error. We have the batch number, batch type, batch number, and document number. Okay, and depending on the error we are querying, we have a few different actions buttons right here. So these buttons change according to the error. In this case, when a journal entry has an inactive business unit, we have two options. Either we change the business unit in the journal entry so we can review the transaction and change the business unit, or we can activate the business unit. When we press this suggested action button, an orchestration is being called that will automatically activate the business unit associated with the transaction in error. Any orchestration performed from fast closing complies with the security configured in JDE edits, so ensuring that the user actually has access to the action being taken. Note that in this case, when I activate your business unit 140, all transactions that has this error changes their status to action taken. So once the error is corrected, from this same screen, I can repost the batch, clicking on the Approve and Post batch. If we go back to our dashboard screen right now, we can see that the graphic that shows the actions taken is now updated with how many actions I took to correct my batch. Okay. There are some other buttons, generic buttons on this screen. Okay. For example, I'm sorry, let me go to the other one that we have more information. Okay. For example, I can see more details of the error, and in which case you get the complete error message that you have access to via PDF or Work Center. This is exactly the information that the user will find out in the Work Center. We have the button called Solve Manually. So if you have you have the solve button, solve manually button right here, when for some reason you solved the indicated problem not through the fast closing tool, but some action that was taken without using our suggested actions. So if I click here and say that this issue were solved manually, I can click here and it will show me here that it was solved manually. So we also have the error note button right here. So in this case, if you want to write down some details about the transaction, the error history, or leave a reminder of how the problem was resolved for the specific transaction, you can click the error note button. You can see notes previously added if it is the case, and you can always add more details, more notes. So note number 3, for instance. When we have include any note in the detail in the system, the system shows this icon to the side in the side of the error to indicate that there were notes associated with the transaction. And as an additional resource, if you don't have the authority or you don't know how to solve the error, you can ask another colleague for help by clicking the Ask for Help button right here. This function shows a list of emails configured as users responsible for the closing, where you can select who to direct the error that we want help. So I can choose any people here and ask for help. Okay. And one last button that I would like to show you is this one here, is the knowledge base button. So lastly, if you want to add a note related to the error and not to the specific transaction, you have the knowledge base button right here. You can use the knowledge base button to better describe the error in a language that your users understand. Not always the error message issued by JDE Edwards is a clear one. It's not specific. It's not easy to read. So you can add your specific error message right here. And you can put tips for other users on how you solve the error, including your step-by-step. So this plus sign right here indicates that there is some relevant information about in the knowledge base for this error in question. And the goal here is that this knowledge base will grow organically as users use the tool. Okay, so finally, going back to our dashboard, I would like to show you now new integrity reports that MPL has developed to help reconcile general ledger with accounts payable and accounts receivable. So in this in these new reports, we search in detail for the transactions in the AP or AR and try to relate them to the corresponding GL journal entry. If we find it, the transaction is marked as reconciled. If we don't, an error is generated for the transaction. So we'll go here to the AP and GL automatic reconciliation. So similar to what we saw before in this initial screen, we have the types of errors that were found, and the number of transactions that have the specific errors right here. Okay, you may have, this is the free errors that you should be able to find out during this reconciliation. You can have unreconciled vouchers, you may have unreconciled payments, and we may have also manual posting made directly to the general ledger module, but in accounts payable control accounts. So let's see one of this kind of error right here. So in this error detail screen, the tool shows us the unreconciled transactions. Okay, in this case right here, just to see the details, we have a voucher that was completely voided, but the reversal entry was not generated in the general ledger. We just have the original entry in the general ledger. Okay, so from this screen, if the user wants to make the adjustments, just click on the adjustment button right here, and the system suggests the account to be launched, and based on the GL class code and the original journal entry, okay, and asks the user to inform the contra cleaning account to balance the journal entry right here. So this is what we would like to show you on the tool. And just to conclude, I will now like to speak briefly with you about the project implementation tools. Okay, the project implementation for this tool. So after knowing the product, Okay, now we can talk about the implementation project of the tool. It should be a simple process, a fast process, given that the majority of the routines come already pre-configured. Okay, we divided the implementation project into 4 phases: product installation, setup, user training, and go live. Okay, and this section for the go live we divided in 2 subphases. Subphase number 1 is what we call preparing for the close. We will monitor posting of batch and resolve any critical errors that are displayed in the fast close watch list. And subphase number 2 is the actual closing, where all processes are executed, client analyzes results, books adjustment, and issues integrity reports. Okay, so that's mainly what we wanted to show you. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you very much. So,
Thank you very much,
Deidre,
Simone. Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll
Yeah,
stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, thank you. So we've got a minute or two. If there are any questions for Simone, or alternatively, as I said, please contact me directly and I'll make sure that you get all the relevant information that you need. Right, thank you. I'm going to then hand over to Mark from Cadron to take us through the air product. Mark, over to you.
Yes. Good morning, all. Welcome to our account and inventory reconciliation presentation. Short introduction. My name is Mark Stiekema. I'm a senior finance consultant and a product specialist for account and inventory reconciliation. I work for a Cadron consultancy and we're part of the Redford International team. This is our agenda. We'll have a short overview of month-end processes. We already had that, of course, with MPL's fast closing module. Short look at suspense accounts, inventory. Big question: are you in control? Perhaps we have some time for Q&A. Which month-end processes. We just saw a very good presentation for fast closing to really take you through the process. But in general, you will need to make sure batches are posted. You might run allocations, do some integrity checks, some consolidations, reconciliations, month-end reporting. You move on to the next period. In this presentation, we will focus on integrity checks, reconciliation, and month-end reporting. With month-end reporting, some reports are quite easy to produce within JDE Edwards, and some others can be time-consuming, like specifying your suspense accounts or accurately reporting your inventory as of end of the month. Those are the ones we will be focusing on. With suspense accounts, you have some suspense accounts on your balance sheet, which you probably need to explain and make sure there's nothing in there which shouldn't be. And if we zoom in, for instance, on a received not vouchers account, you will see receipts going in and vouchers transactions which will net to 0, but not all will, of course, for received not vouchered. And you will need to find out which are reconciled and which are remaining transactions, so you can actually explain the balance of your received not vouchered account, for instance. This also tells you if all your processes are running correct and the voucher was processed against the correct receipt and not booked to expenses, for instance. So you don't want all the receipts in here, so you can monitor that as well. Let's dive into the software. It's fully built within the JDE Edwards toolset, so it fully listens to your own security. It's just part of your JDE Edwards environment. You can use all the tooling available, like watch lists and pages and grids and so on, so no problem. Manual account reconciliation. We have a list of all the accounts set up for reconciliation. You can search the list, you can assign account types, account responsibles. That can be a department, or that can be a person, depending on how you set it up. And this allows you to quickly find all the accounts you will need to reconcile. Let's take a received not vouchered account as an example. Here we see all the transactions of the accounts which have not been reconciled yet. And we set up this account to be to group information based on the purchase order information within the account. So here you see summary rows, the blue ones, which display all the summary, all the information, and we see here a receipt and a voucher netting out to 0. When we go to the manual sequence tab, here are all the fields available for reconciliation. And in this case, these fields, the purchase order fields, including the purchase order line number in this case, are set up to group the information together. This is something you can set differently for each account you want to reconcile. You can clear the sequence, you can manually change it, you can resequence it and see what the result is. If you say, well, want the default sequence back, you can reset it to your default. So it's really flexible and easy to figure out how to reconcile an account. Once grouped, we can use an auto select, so the system can automatically find those entries which should be reconciled. You see here the check marks, and if you press reconcile, the transactions are reconciled. And we can review the reconciled transactions that are still in the work file here, and we see information assigned here like a letter, a reconciliation letter, a unique reference that groups the information together so you can always explain your reconciliation, and a reconciled date, making sure you can use your as of reporting for your suspense accounts. Let's take another account as an example. I've set up some just created a few journal entries and I set up a sequence, in this case using a subledger combination with a remark to group this information. And in this case we have a small difference in these two records, but I still want to reconcile this. And I can set up a tolerance for the account, allowing me to reconcile small differences, or if you set a high tolerance, even very high differences. And this allows me to reconcile even though it doesn't net to 0. And if we press reconcile and review the result, we will see an additional record. We will see a tolerance journal entry. The system now automatically created a tolerance entry for the difference on the account. We can review the journal entry. It's been created against my offset account, and I can set a default offset account for each situation. I can even allow users, in this case, to override the offset account. I can add explanations to why I reconcile this if I want to. And this allows me to quickly reconcile even though there are differences, and create correcting entries on the fly. So no need to manually make a journal entry first and then find all information together. This will do it for you. If I'm not happy with the result, I can unreconcile it. The batch, this has not been posted yet, so it will be removed, and we are back to our original situation. If I don't have matching information, I can always manually select records I want to reconcile, just by double clicking on the row or using the select option, and it will tell me here what the difference is and see if I can reconcile it this way. So it can be fully manual and semi-automatic. And of course, we can do it in batch as well. As soon as you use your, if the auto select can find the information, you can automate it and run it as a batch job. Fully automated. Let's move on to a more complex than situation than a received not vouchered account. That's inventory. With inventory, you have a lot of things happening in your inventory. You purchase goods, you manufacture, you transfer, you sell. So your inventory is constantly on the move, constantly changing. You have product costing affecting the value of your inventory. You'll have adjustments in your inventory. You will do cycle counts. So there are a lot of processes which impact your inventory, and this makes reconciling inventory and checking your inventory quite challenging and somewhat harder to manage than just an account with two processes. When we look at validations required for your inventory, if we start with an inventory transaction, you will have an update of your item balance, updating your on-hand quantity. It will create an item ledger transaction, and sooner or later it will generate a general ledger transaction. That can be interactively, but it can also be a delayed situation when a sales update needs to be run, or manufacturing accounting, or cycle billing, or whatever. So there's a delay there. Your item balance, that's the one you will use for instance, your cycle count, and that's the one used to visually check if what is on stock is actually in the books and that matches, and so on. On the other hand, for your reporting, you will use your general ledger to report your results. And how do you validate your general ledger balances for your inventory? You need to compare it with something. For that, we created the advanced item as of. Advanced item as of will use item ledger transactions to build up an inventory report for you. And this will allow us with inventory reporting to report the variance between your general ledger balances for your inventory accounts and your inventory totals. Also, since we check the item balance to physically check your inventory, we also need to make sure the item balance matches with the total of your item ledger transactions. So we created inventory integrity as well. And on transaction level, we also have inventory reconciliation, where we compare general ledger with item ledger to find incorrect transactions and correct them, so we can fix the problems. Inventory integrity is the one where we take item balance, item ledger transactions, and create an application overview. So not a PDF to sift through, an application which will tell you both for quantities and amounts where the problems are, and those you can fix and find and correct where needed. And it's designed in such a way that it can run in a 24/7 operation, so no need to hold all transactions. You can schedule it, for instance, each night to check new changed inventory, and you can even recalculate the results interactively. So if you checked something, you can just press a recalculate button to see if the fix you applied, if that works. So you can really be on top of your inventory as soon as you as there's an issue. You will, as soon as this has a run, you will find it. Just set up a watch list to monitor the process. Inventory reporting is also something we see a lot of our customers struggling with. Here I've got an overview of period 1 and period 2. We're a few days into period 2 at this moment, and we need to report our inventory as of end of period 1. And we have all sorts of situations. We have transactions which are in period 1. The inventory is created in period 1. The balance was updated. The GL transaction, everything is in period 1. You can also have transactions where the transaction originated in period 1 was what was accounted for in period 2. little bit more complex. I can even have transactions that are in Pier 1, but somehow the accounting didn't take place. That can be your normal process, delayed sales update, for instance. It can also be something went wrong. So these need to be accounted for in the future, but are not accounted yet. And we have already transactions for period 2, which have nothing to do with period 1 at all. So my current on-hand quantity is completely useless to report our inventory right now. What we do, we create two kinds of information. We look at a logistical inventory, basically your on-hand as of end of the month, and financial, what is actually accounted. And we can see for each transaction which inventory it should affect. Also, we can group transactions, so we can create an inventory movement overview, meaning you will have a beginning balance of your inventory for the period or the year, how much you purchased, what was done with manufacturing, how much you sold, but also your adjustments, and what was shipped but not yet accounted. You can also isolate those. And that means we have two kinds of ending balances. One financial, which we can match with your GL, and one reflecting our on-hand value at the end of the month. And that means we can really accurately match this with our GL. Dive into the system. Inventory reporting by period. We've generated a report, and here we have two accounts which show the beginning balances, both financial and logistical, the amount buckets for the various situations. This is all set up based on a code, so you can have multiple reports here if you want to. And it also shows the ending balances. It will take your GL balance, as in your GL, and will calculate the variance. So in this case, we have end of period 10 here, we've got a variance of 72 euros and 80 cents. This is all in euros, but it's in your company currency, of course. So we have a variance here. If I want to know more here, I can select the record, providing me a list of all items that are on hand or have transactions within this period. So this is a list based on all the items where you also have your quantities here. So the same information, but then split down on item level for all information, including your some item category code. And this is basically your inventory report. So you can use either your own reporting tool or just an Excel export to have an inventory report. If you want to know more about certain transactions, you can also click on the amounts. This will show us the sold info, the sold but not accounted for information. That's the column I clicked on, and I can drill. These are the items involved. I can drill down, and here I see an item which was shipped on the last day of the month, but accounted for on the first day of the next period. So it's unaccounted for in period 10. So it should be an unaccounted column. So we really can find where this should be reported. An inventory reconciliation, where we take item ledger transactions and general ledger transactions and compare those. And we can reconcile those based on, for instance, the document information, item number, all depending on how we do that. Remember the 72 euros and 80 cents. With manual inventory reconciliation, we also have the same amount, 72 euros and 80 cents. This is the amount that's not been reconciled yet. So there is an actual difference on transaction level as well. And this normally matches So you will have an explanation of exactly which transactions caused the issue of your out of balance. So if you select this, we have information here coming from your item ledger, your inventory, and from your general ledger, your account. This is the exact same screen as you saw before for manual account reconciliation, but this time it takes also information from your item ledger. And we've set up the system to reconcile based on the account, the document information and GL date. And this is the actual document number as found in your GL. So not the one found in your item ledger, which can be different. For instance, when you use cycle billing or SKOK processes, those won't match. And here we can also use the auto select, find out which transactions match, reconcile, and we are left with the transactions that caused the issue. Well, here we see two transactions with only an accounting part, but they net to zero, so we should look into that. And here we have our 72 euros and 80 cents. We only have an inventory transaction here. The sort of GL side is missing. Let's see. We can look at the journal entry, and we find the journal entry. It's on the correct inventory account. So there's something else wrong with this. And in this case, we have an unposted transaction. So this is an easy one. We can post a batch. We'll update our totals, and our 72 euros and 80 cents difference will disappear. We can reconcile, and we're in control again. So this really takes all information from the general ledger, item ledger, combines it, and of course, you do not do this manually for each transaction. You will have a scheduled job, normally running each night, so you know which transactions were wrong the next day, and you can take action as soon as possible. So don't wait till the end of the month. Do it during the month to be in control. Well, with our account and inventory reconciliation, we find that our customers have much faster reconciliation process, can easily correcting journal entries much faster. No personal Excel sheets and so on needed, no exports. It's all done within the JDE Edwards environment. Specifying the suspense account is much easier, including as of, and we have an audit trail. We can exactly know what happened and which transactions are matched with which transactions. For inventory, we see a very accurate inventory reporting. We eliminated all timing issues, and we can explain 100% of the difference if there is any. It also means instead of spending hours and hours to find the root cause of your mismatch between your inventory and GL, you can do it in minutes. The system already has the transactions that are wrong, and you can do it much earlier. You can monitor your inventory during the month, and you don't have to wait till end of the month. It also means your processes can be much easier approved, much better analyzed and improved, because you know exactly the transactions that went wrong, and you can prevent those from going wrong again. You end up with more reliability in accounting, more accuracy, and you're more in control with your GL and inventory. We've got some compare sheets. We won't go through them now, but they're in the presentation. You can compare the things with the standard Edwards options and our solutions. I'm not sure if we've got time left for Q&A, but I'm sure if there are issues then or questions, please contact Resolve Red, and we can always schedule a demo if required. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mark. So any questions for Mark? Right, and again, the invite stands that if you don't want to ask any questions now, but you need further information or want to know a bit more about it, or if I can arrange a personal session for you, just contact me and I'll make those arrangements. So I'm going to now hand over to Werner. Werner is going to take us through the ADEX product. Werner, over to you.
Thank you, Deirdre, and good morning, everybody. Like Deirdre mentioned, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the ADEX functionality. And yes, let me start off with a blank sheet and show you some main features or functionality buttons on the ADEX screen. So after you've downloaded and installed the ADEX add-on, a new tab will be added. So basically the main functions or main buttons that we're going to discuss today is we've got an information button that will display your license information. So after installing and activating your the ADEX add-on, we can then proceed and create a AIS server connection. This AIS server connection, you can then connect to your different environments. In our case, we've created a connection to the DV environment, and after you've entered all your information, you test your connection. Test connect successfully, and then you save your connection. I've already saved my connection, so I don't need to do that again. Then moving across, we've got our refresh orchestrations, clearing cache, and then to the left-hand side, orchestrations are used to actually upload your master data, change your master data, or even create transactional records, all based on the design and requirement of business and how that orchestration has been created, designed. So I've got some examples here, but just to quickly show you how easy it is to actually link the orchestration, I'm just going to select on the drop-down box, and I'm just going to select any one of these. Doesn't matter. Master to receipt. We select that orchestration, and we say create the template. Okay, this is just the basic one. Let me choose a different one. Let's choose the enter purchase order. We create the template, and the template automatically creates. So just to give you some overview on the screen, in the front part we've got a blue boxes that say, well, run this orchestration or use this data to run it. The green parts are all our input fields. Then we've got the status. Did the orchestration run correctly? And then to the back are output fields. Okay, so that's just a quick overview. If there's time, we'll come back to this one and we'll just enter some data. So I prepared the address book, master data upload. Like I mentioned, if there's a Y in the field, the transaction won't, or the add-on won't process those records. So like we see over here, let me just minimize this. So like we see over here, I've entered a whole lot of data. I've entered all the category codes, and you can build in logic into the spreadsheet to actually do the data validation as well. So I built in some logic, and you then have a list of category codes that you can use and update. So that's, you don't try and upload invalid data. Okay. And like I mentioned to the back over here, there's a status code and then return values. In my case, I've now created different tabs. One to just upload the address book, second one to actually do the phone numbers, and then a third one to do emails. In these additional tabs, I actually created links referencing back to my original spreadsheet. and it will then return the previously assigned address book number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start or run this first orchestration. You've got the option to just call one single orchestration, or you can call multiple orchestrations. Okay, all based on the sequence of your tabs at the bottom. But I'm just going to run this first one to create my address book record. So I'm just going to say call orchestration. It will ask confirmation. I say yes, orchestration is kicked off. It now established the connection to the AIS server, and it actually went and created my record, the status of successful. Let me go to our JDE. Facebook, and I'm going to search, and my address book record was created. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Right. And we've got an address book number 68865. If I go back to my ADEX template, we can see it now returned 68865, the address book number. With my referencing, it's now added the address book number to my phone information and to my email information. So let's just go and look at the who's who information. Row who's who. Row phones. Currently we don't have any phones in there, and email addresses, no email addresses. So I'm now going to just show you the additional added functionality on here. So with most or some master data or information, we've got header and detail information. So in our case, we've got, we can see here, it also refers to a grid ID line. So, and we can now select the autofill header detail. So when we do this, it now populates the header detail information, this indicating that we've got the address book number, which is a header, and then we've got our detail information. So you can now enter 10, 20, or depending on how many phone numbers you've got, you can enter that number of phone numbers in there. The same with the email addresses. I'm also going to set autofill header detail, and it will actually say, well, this line is a header detail information. So let me kick off the orchestration. I'm going to kick off a multiple orchestration. I want to run the phones and the who's who email address. Now run the orchestration. Yes, confirmation. And it's updated successfully. It took us 0.5 of a second to upload the email address, and it took us 0.5 of a second to upload the phone number. This is also establishing the connection to the AIS server. So basically logging in, creating the connection, and actually processing these records. Let's get back to JDE. Let's go to row who's who. Phone numbers, there's my phone number and our email address. There's our email address. Okay. So let's try one more. And I'm going to, and you will see that the other ones did not process because we had a Y in there. I'm going to remove the Y from here, and also, and on the email addresses. I'm going to autofill my information. Once again, it automatically picks up that this is one single header. And on our phones, autofill. And I'm actually now going to, and we can see currently this is a 0 because the front it hasn't picked anything up. And I'm going to call multiple orchestrations. I'm going to call the address book, phones, and email. I'm going to run the orchestration. Yes. All right, all done. If we go back to our JDE, we're going to say find. It created our second address book line and with our who's who information, phones, phone number, and our email address. Okay. And once again, if we now go back, in our case, it took 0.7 of a second to create our address book record, 0.4, or let's call it 0.5 of a second to create our phone, and 0.5 to create our email. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to actually remove all the yeses and run these transactions. Okay. When you've got referencing, it can happen that your header detail does not populate correctly, but let's just see. In our case, just because these are all zeros, it now says, well, this is a header detail and all these are detail. I'm just going to override this. But if you've got address book numbers in there already, it will then actually do the correcting. So you'll notice on my last one, I've actually got multiple phone numbers. And I'm just going to repeat this for this side as well. To my autofill header detail. In this case, it worked out perfectly. So just to confirm, information over here is correct. Over here, my information is correct, and I'm now going to just kick off the orchestration. So call multiple orchestration, address book, phones, and the emails. Obviously, you can combine this orchestration and it's one huge orchestration, or you can split it up into the different pieces. So run the orchestration. So it's now created all our additional address book records. As we can see, it now ran much faster because it's already established the connection. Right, on the who's, on the phone numbers, we can see they were all created. It will only create a successful status for the header. It does not show that on the detail. And obviously, if there's an error, it will actually return the error from show the actual JDE error to say what the problem was, why the record wasn't created. And then now the same with the email addresses. I go back to JDE, we say find, I'm just going to remove the 0. We now have all 13 records. In the last one we had multiple phone numbers. So let's just go to the who's who, the phones, and we can see it actually added all the detail lines. And then back to our email. We can see our email was added as well. So that's basically the adding master data like I mentioned earlier, if you've got your design to orchestration, you can actually also go and update master data. Okay. So in this case, this is just a quick orchestration just to add the records. And yeah, that was now on the address book. And you can add, I think in the previous session, somebody asked the question, you can add 100,000, 200,000 lines. It doesn't matter. You can add multiple records. Okay, the next one we're going to look at the customer price upload. Right, so what basically happens here, we all know we first have to go and expire the original records, put the expiry date, add a new date. In this example, I am just going to, let me just remove this information. But, oh, and what I failed to say is if a record's been processed successfully, you can rerun the orchestration and it will actually exclude the record that was processed. So it won't reprocess that same record. Right, so let me just put in some conclusions. Let's open up that. That was. So work with preference base price. I'm going to select this item with a branch plant. This is demo data and a customer 1288. So this is currently the information we've got, the base price. And we can see there's an effective from through date with a price of 179. And on our spreadsheet, I've got the first record. Let's make this a bit bigger. So the first record, I'm going to say from the 1st of the 1st, 2022, I'm going to put in a unit price of 180. I'm leaving the effective through date blank, and it will then automatically default the end date that's been configured in your system. Once again, let me call the orchestration. Yes. It's updated it successfully, and 0.64 of a second. So let's say find, it's added the additional record. And we can see we've now got a date of 01/01/2022, and it defaulted the configured last date. So let me run another example. Next line. And I'm going to call the orchestration. Yes. It's updated, and if we can have a look at the data, we can now see it actually added the from through date. Okay. What I've also done on the spreadsheet, I've actually added some formulas in here, so it will automatically pick up whatever formula you used. Right. So let me run the remaining ones. All the orchestration and right. So now it's run. Let's just go and to our JDE and let's go and look at the detail. And here we can see. Let's make this bigger as well. Here we can see each time we added the record 13 to 3103, it actually went and expired added the end date. So automatically updated the dates. So this way you can upload master data, you can upload transactional data. Okay. Let's quickly have a look at, because I see we've got still some time left. I'm now quickly going to look at the one we created. So going back to the purchase order one, let me add an address number. Let's just start off with a basic one. So we're going to enter a purchase order, and we're going to say call orchestration. And it was successful. Let's go back to JDE.
Werner, while you're looking this up, I see Boring has got his hand up.
Yes.
I've understood. Just a quick question on that. Does that support advanced pricing at all?
Sorry, the sound is a bit bad on my side.
Just wanted to check, does that price upload support advanced pricing at all?
Yeah.
Base price and advanced.
Yeah, base price, advanced price. You can basically, anything you can do in JDE, you create your orchestration and you can run the orchestration from your add-on.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's look at the detailed revision over here, and we can see it actually created our record. So let's do a final test, and you can see I'm just going to recopy this information, and I'm going to add multiple lines. The autofill. You can see it automatically. This is a header detail. Right. Okay, let's quickly call this orchestration. Completed. A little bit longer, 2 seconds. Find detailed revision. And there's our order. Right. Any questions?
Thank you, Werner. So, thank you, everyone. Are there any other questions that we can field today? Okay, it seems that no questions for the panel. Then thank you all for attending the session, and a special thank you to our speakers, in particular our Brazil guests. The rest of your day is going to be good. I know you've got a long day ahead of you. I will send out the link and the presentations to the recording as soon as it's available for me to send. So thank you all, and we wish you all a very festive holiday season in December, and we hope to see you all in May when we have our next forum. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.